Hello everybody and welcome to my new reading channel, Today's Night Productions. Today we'll be reading Bionicle Equestrian Saga, Book 1, Rise of the Wolfpack by Nova Blast. Chapter 1, Afterlife, Arc 1. Oh, hello there. I expect you're waiting to know my story, young one. You're not the first, and I doubt you'll be the last. All the tens of decades later, and people still want to know my story firsthand. Well, order of some drinks. This is going to take a while. I suppose the best place to start my story will be at the beginning. I had just gotten off a bus and was walking home. I hear a mighty bang and my vision is filled with light. Then I woke up in a forest. My first conscious thought was, great, I am in a wood bloody forest and not going to be getting home on time, am I? I stood up and looked around. I decided to pick a direction and walk in said direction. There were trees everywhere, but wasn't exactly claustrophobic. In the distance, I heard a faint tinkling of a stream. I stopped and tried to pinpoint the direction of the sound. It seemed to be coming from the left of me. As I walked the direction of the stream, I found myself saddle gully. I made my way down to the water and froze when I saw my staring right back at me was a robot. I probably stood there for a good 5 minutes just staring at my reflection. Although it was somewhat distorted by the flowing water, I could still get a good idea of what I looked like now. My torso was silver with a red chestplate. The chestplate itself was circular with what looked like a high hinging disc-shaped panel with a dull green glow emanating from it. The sort of effect you get from a torch shining a torch behind an opaque glass, as well as a smaller square-shaped panel at the bottom of the chestplate. My upper arms were covered in red plating, as well as silver panels on top. These also look like the upturned versions of the chest panel. My lower arms wasn't covered by any thick armor plating, but they were covered in scale armor that looks like scales. On my hands were red gauntlets. My legs just had plain red armor, as did my boots. I was wearing a gold mask, and my eyes were now green. They were originally brown and glowing. It was then I suddenly realized I had been walking for God knows how long, and I didn't notice my new form. I also noticed I had some sort of HUD display, things like health, compass, and shielding, but was displaying 0% at the time. I looked back at my reflection, and I noticed that I had something on my back in addition to my rucksack. I'm still trying to figure out how that. I grabbed hold of what felt like a handle and pulled the object off my back. It came away as if it wasn't actually attached. I brought the object in front of me to reveal it to be a fucking huge sword. Seriously, the blade was huge. It had to be at least 4 or 5 feet long and about a foot wide, yet it didn't feel that heavy. It wasn't exactly weightless, but wasn't as heavy as it should be. I gave it a couple experimental swings before staying it on my back. It felt really well balanced. I was what you would call an expert at sword fighting, although I have a couple hours experience in fencing, so I roughly had to handle a blade, just not one as big as this. Meaning, push came to shove, I could defend myself, although I very much doubt that I would actually need to use it. Snap! Oh crap! I looked around to try to find the source of the sound. I looked around, trying to find the source of the sound, but I couldn't see anything out of place. Must have been my imagination. I barely had time to react as a wolf charged at me from seemingly nowhere and bit down on my left arm really hard. Ah, you bitch! I screamed. I may have armor, but It still bloody hurt. I saw my health go down slightly quickly. I punched it hard on the nose. It yelped, but it didn't let go and started shaking my arm like a chew toy. I started punching it repeatedly until I could feel its hold on me loosen. I started twisting my left arm to try and get it free. In the distance, I could hear the howling of more wolves. Oh, screw this. I grabbed the sword on my back. One swift movement, I swung it in an arc, aiming for the wolf's neck. Instead of cleanly slicing through the wolf's neck, the whole animal disintegrated into a pile of sticks. The wolves started growling and hissing at me as I backed away at a slightly quicker pace. The wolves started walking towards me, matching my pace. I'm starting to think this might not be Shieldwood Forest. Yeah, they definitely don't have wolves made of wood running around in Hampshire. I thought while I was trying to plan my way out of this mess. Can't outrun them, even if they are made of wood. They are no doubt faster. They don't want to risk climbing up a tree cause not kinetic. I don't want to get mauled to death by a bunch of walking sherbets. My brother will never let me forget that. I guess I should try. Sorry about that, my phone just called. I lifted my sword into a defensive position and prepared myself for the coming fight. Well, if I'm going to fight these things, then I better try and endure it. "Oh, wankers!" I exclaimed while pointing my sword at them, trying to provoke them. "Your mother was a kitten, and your father smells of elderberry." That seemed to get their attention. The one that bit my arm seemed to get really pissed off. Charged at me. "Really? Yeah, you're attacking one at a time," I thought. As it jumped up at me, I swung my sword to try and make it disintegrate again. All I did in doing was scratching its right eye before it knocked me into the ground. My sword got in my hand, and I got over my temporary distortion. Found the wolf standing with its front paws on my chest, staring down at me, glowing the same color as his eyes. It puffed out green smoke at me before baring its teeth and growling. "Well, Shizer, hardly been out half an hour, and I'm already about to be mauled to death by a walking shove. My brother would never let me live this one down," I thought while sighing and rolling my eyes. And that, my friends, had been the first chapter to Bionicle, Equestrian Saga, Book 1, Rise of the Wolfpack.